All right, Wade, we are live now. I've made you the host. I'm your co-host.
Okay, looks good. Hey, good morning or afternoon, depending where you are. Hi, Gordon.
Hi, Wade. How are you again?
Doing great, thanks.
Good.
You, Patty. Morning, Patty.
Good morning. It is morning here.
Okay, actually, it's afternoon here. I keep wanting to say morning, but it's
Yeah.
it's afternoon on the East Coast. Hey, Warren, I see you're back. Hope you got a cup of coffee in the meantime.
I'm trying.
We're keeping you busy, aren't we?
Yes, yes.
Good to have you. Maureen, hi.
Hello there. Sorry, it took me
There
a
you are.
while
Hey.
to unmute,
Hi, Maureen.
etc.
Good to see you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yvette.
Hi, Wade.
Let's see, is Ravindra, are you there? Got a pretty good group signed up for today's class, so that's wonderful. Tagar is coming in, still connecting. Ah, there you are, Tagar. Welcome.
Good evening.
Hi, Ravindra.
Hi, good evening, sir.
Oh, welcome. Glad to have you.
That don't make no sense.
There you go.
Hello.
Yes, I can see you now. Welcome.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting things organized. We're going to wait around another minute or two for some other people to come in. But in the meantime, I'm going to start setting everything up. Let me first share my screen.
I don't give a rep. Oh.
All right, so you should see my slides now. And I'm going to move your pictures over to my other monitor over here on the, so I can see you over here. This one a little bit more. There we go. Okay, and I've gone ahead and muted everyone. So we're going to have a pretty good sized group, it looks like. And so I will be muting periodically whenever we start to hear any background noise or echoes or anything else. So point there being, just remember to check and unmute yourself before you ask a question or make a comment to make sure that I will hear you. I'm going to open up the chat as well. Okay, and the chat is now open, and Joe is here from our Get Set Up TA group. He's going to help me monitor the chat as well as help manage the class. Thanks for joining us, Joe. Appreciate your help. But if your microphone is working, just go ahead and ask your questions out loud, if you would. That way everyone else can hear your questions and I will hear them on a timely basis as well. But if you're having trouble with your mic, or if you want to contact us through the chat, it is now open and available. Okay, let's see. Anybody else? A couple more people have come in here. I see Peachy's come in. Can you hear us? And Isabel, welcome to both of you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We got a lot to cover in this class. All right, so I think we're ready other than that. So I'm going to go ahead and start the class. This is Google Sheets Basics. So as the name suggests, this is the introductory class for Google Sheets. My name is Wade Yarbrough, and I'll be the guide for the class today. A little bit about my background. I'm from a very small town in West Tennessee called Mason, Tennessee. Went to West Virginia University to get my degree in psychology, and I've taught psychology off and on during my career, but spent most of my career designing, installing, and training users how to use hospital information systems. So I've done a lot of adult training in my career. What I love about teaching here at Get Set Up is I get to teach people that are in the class because you're interested in being in the class, interested in the topic, not here because your employer made you be here. And that is what we do try to do with Get Set Up, is to create an environment where you can take classes you're interested in and be around other people that are interested in the same topic. You can interact with those other people in the class, and certainly you can ask questions of the guide in the class. We try to set up a nice, comfortable environment where you're comfortable doing that. One of the reasons we ask people to turn their cameras on if they're okay with that. It tends to make it a little easier for people to talk. But if you're not comfortable turning your camera on, that is fine as well. Session is being recorded, and any participant can request a copy of that recording. Just send an email to help@getsetup.io. And I'm going to put that in the chat. In case you don't have that in your email contacts already, go ahead and put that in your contacts. That is really your one-stop shopping for communicating with Get Set Up. Any questions, comments, complaints that you have, you can send it to help@getsetup.io. It will get routed to the right person. We're also live streaming the class today, so I do want to welcome anyone joining us via live stream. Thanks for coming, and hope you enjoy the class as well. But I do want to stress that the only way to get that full Get Set Up experience where you can interact with the other learners and ask questions of the guide is to go to our website and register for the class. And finally, Get Set Up is not paid to promote any of the products and vendors we train on. We are purely trainers. So in terms of the agenda today, this is an introductory class, so it assumes that you may be coming in with absolutely no experience with spreadsheets of any kind. We do assume that most people are going to have some passing familiarity with Excel and probably little or no experience with Google Sheets, but if you're coming in with no experience whatsoever, you're in the right place as well. So we're going to start from the scratch, teach you how to create a new worksheet, how to open existing worksheets, how to copy and format information. We'll spend a good bit of time talking about formulas and functions. Those are the heart of any spreadsheet package. And we'll also show you how to import an Excel spreadsheet into Google Sheets and how to download a Google Sheet back into Excel. Excel and Google Sheets work very well together, which makes it nice if you have worked with Excel in the past, have existing Excel spreadsheets, you can use them in Google Sheets. So in terms of Google Sheets versus Excel, we'll talk about some of the similarities and differences. Google Sheets is browser-based, and that basically means any device that supports a browser, and any browser that you want to use, you can get to Google Sheets from it, as well as all the other Google apps. One of the nice things about Google, it's more universally available. Excel is a program. You have to access it through the operating system. It works on Windows as well as Mac, but it is not a browser-based package in its native form. Excel has more functions and features. It's been around for a very long time, so it has had time to develop lots of functions and features. Excel can also handle bigger data sets than Sheets. Excel can handle 1 million rows by 16,000 columns. I can't even wrap my brain around how big of a spreadsheet that would be and why anyone would ever want one like that. Google Sheets can have 50,000 rows and 40 columns. I don't think I've ever created one any larger than that. And I've worked in a lot of corporate applications as well. So I don't think this is a limitation you're going to bump into with Sheets, but just so that you know, if you do need 1,000,000 rows, you can get it with Excel. Sheets is free, which is another big selling point. Lots of people have used Excel as part of their work life where the company was paying for it. Now you would have to buy that yourself. It's $70 a year, $69.99. You do get a lot for that though. You not only Excel, you get Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneNote, as well as a OneDrive with a 1 terabyte of data. So pretty good value for $70 a year, but Sheets is free, which is an attractive part for a lot of people that are looking at maybe migrating from Excel to Sheets. Questions about anything so far? Okay. And as always, if you have questions and comments, please just unmute and ask away. So how do I get access to Sheets? Very simple. You do have to have a Google account. If you don't have a Google account, you can easily sign up for one. I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. And then you can access it 2 different ways. I've been talking about using it from the browser. That is the full featured version of Google Sheets, is using the browser. And I'll show you how to get to it from a browser. It does also run as an app. So if you have a smartphone or tablet and you want to download it from your app store, you can do that. It does look different. It functions different. There's some things I'm going to show you on the browser that don't work on the app. So it'll be very hard to follow along using the app today. For me, it's just a quick way. If I've got a spreadsheet and I need to look at some of the information in that spreadsheet and I've got my phone handy, I might access it that way. But if I'm creating and editing a spreadsheet, personally, I'm going to use a browser. Okay, so I'm going to bring up a different browser that is already sitting at www.google.com. So if you don't have a Google account, this is where you go, www.google.com. It'll have a link that says sign up. You can sign up for a Google account. Once you've signed up, if you come to this same site, www.google.com, you can sign in. Once you're signed in, it'll look like this. Your far right upper corner will have your Google account. If you click that, it'll show you the account you're logged into. You can have multiple accounts. There's no restrictions on how many Google accounts. I've got my personal account and my business account both running at the same time. You can toggle back and forth easily between your accounts from here. This is called the Waffle app. This is actually Google Apps is the official name. This has all the different apps that come with your Google account. We do have a class called Introduction to Google Apps that goes over all these different apps, not in very much detail, but it does go over what they are. But for today, since we're doing Google Sheets, we're going to come down here to Sheets. Looks like this. This is also what the icon would look like if you're downloading it from the App Store. And we'll click Google Sheets. That now takes us to the home page for Google Sheets. There are 2 sections to the home page. The top section says start a new spreadsheet. This is where you can create one either from scratch or via template. We're going to start up here. The lower section has all the different sheets that you have access to. If you're brand new to Google Sheets, there won't be anything down here. So we'll start up here. 2 ways to start a new spreadsheet. You can start a blank one. I'll click that just to show you that it means what it says. It opens up a spreadsheet. It's got rows and columns, but there's nothing in it. You're starting from scratch. This is the Sheets home icon. So I can click here to go back to that home page wherever I am. So I'm back where I was. The other thing you can do is to open a template. Hopefully you're familiar with templates. You probably are, but templates are pre-formatted spreadsheets. I'm going to click on the template gallery to open the full gallery. And you can see there's lots of different templates here: annual budget, a travel planner, a monthly budget, a to-do list, calendars, lots of work-related things, invoices, timesheets, financial statements. You can scroll through this later and look through it. It's a good way to get started if you're new to Google Sheets and new to spreadsheets in general. I even go and look at them sometimes just to get ideas. If I'm going to do a monthly budget, I'll go in and look at that template, and then I usually start with a blank one, but I'll incorporate some of the ideas maybe I got from that template for some features I had never thought about. So lots of ways to use the templates. I'm going to open one just to kind of show you how it works. I'm going to open this annual budget one. To open it, you just click on it. What it's doing in the background is it copied that template into a spreadsheet and opened it in Google Sheets. The name of the spreadsheet is the same as the name of the template. So it's a good idea to rename it, and you can just click anywhere up here and rename it. I'll just call that the Yarborough Annual Budget. You don't have to rename it, but it's if you use the same one more than once, you've got duplicate names, so it can be a little tricky. All spreadsheets give you the option to have multiple tabs down here, multiple sheets they're called. And it starts in one that just sort of explains what this template is. And then you can click into the different sheets. This one is set up with an expenses sheet. So this is where I would record my expenses. So if I've got activities or I spent $125 in January and $50 in February, I just record my expenses here. It tallies them at the top. It runs totals over here and averages over here. You have different sections for the different types of expenses. Your income is over here. How much did you get paid? However you're paid. And then it has a summary page, which starts to graph some of those, that information you've been putting in. We're going to talk about how you do a lot of this later in the class. But you could open this template and not know anything about spreadsheets and just start entering information in here and use it. You typically do need to go in and tweak them. For instance, if you're not paying any tuition, you don't really need that section there. If you don't have a student loans, you don't need that section. So you typically go in and edit this template, make it work for you. But again, they've done 80% of the work. Questions about templates? Okay. All right. I'm going to click back to home, and you'll notice I didn't hit save. You'll also notice there is no save button to click. You don't save in Google, Google saves for you. I'm just going to click back to home. And now we'll talk about that second section, because here's the one I just created. I downloaded the annual budget template. I changed it to Yarborough Annual Budget. It's now here in my list of sheets that I can work on. So these are all the sheets that I can work on. And usually there's not going to be very many, but over time you're going to get a pretty long list. And so Google gives you several ways to manage that list. You can filter the list first. Only see a subset of the total number of sheets that you have at your access. Right now, mine is based on owned by anyone, so it has everything I have access to. I could say, just show me the ones that I own. Give me that subset of everything out there. Or I could say, just show me the ones that are not owned by me. I mean, someone else owns that spreadsheet. They've given me access to it. I can edit it based on that access, or I can do whatever they've given me access to do. We'll talk about sharing spreadsheets a little bit later and how you can share one of yours and determine what that person can do. But this one is owned by Hannah Carpenter. She's given me access to it. This icon means it's being shared. That's what this icon means. But I can open this, and she has given me full access. So I could go in here and change this to say that was really 45, not 52. Edit this as if I owned it. And when I'm done, I can go back home and those edits are automatically saved. The next thing I can do is to sort the ones. So I filtered it down, and I'm going to change this back to owned by anyone for now. You can also filter it or sort it. So right now it's sorted by last opened by me. You can see right here what the current sort is. I can change it last modified by me instead of opened by me. I can open it and not change it, is the difference. Last modified by anyone. So if I'm looking at all those spreadsheets, if someone else modified it, it would move it up to the top. Or I can just sort it by title and just look at it by name. I typically do sort mine by last opened by me, so I'm going to put it back there. Beside each one of the sheets, there is a triple dot. I always say anytime you see a triple dot, click it. So if I click that, I can rename it, I can delete it, or I can open it in a new tab. I'll click open in a new tab and it does just that. So here's where I was in this tab. I said open it in a new tab. It created a new tab, put it over here. That's sometimes handy. Sometimes you may be copying information from one spreadsheet to another spreadsheet. So you would open them both in separate tabs so you could easily copy and paste back and forth. Probably some other reasons you might want to do that. I typically keep everything in one tab instead of having multiple tabs, but it's a personal preference. Google lets you pick how you want to do it. If I wanted to open that same spreadsheet in the same tab where I am, instead of clicking open a new tab, I would just double click it and it opens it in the same tab where I was. The home page goes away. I've now got that sheet open. If I want to go back to my home page, I click here and I'm back at my home page. Questions so far? Everybody still with me? Okay, so there's one other icon here on this page before we go into a spreadsheet, and it's this one right here. And if you hover over any of these, it tells you what they do. I hover over this one, it says Open File Picker, which is not overly explanatory to me, at least, in terms of what that is. What it's talking about, these are showing me spreadsheets that either I created or that someone else created and shared with me. There could be other spreadsheets that I want to get to. I may have downloaded something from the internet. Someone may have sent me something in an email that I put onto my computer, but I've never opened it, which means it's not in this list. This is how you can get to other spreadsheets that you have access to on your device that you've never opened before. So I'm going to click here. It first takes me to my Google Drive. And if I have something out here on Google Drive, I can access it from here. Where I use this more is if I want to go to my device and upload an Excel spreadsheet. I come over here to upload anywhere, any Google app. When you see the word upload, it means get something from your device as opposed to from your Google Drive. Those are the two main places where you have access to things. I want to upload something from my device. I select here, select a file from your device. I'm on a Windows PC, so it opens Windows File Explorer. To my PC, I can grab something from my downloads if I've got a spreadsheet here. I can get it from my documents, or I can even go up to my OneDrive, which is Microsoft's equivalent of Google's Google Drive, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into here and grab something from here, which is the class schedule for a class I was teaching at college. So this is an Excel worksheet. You can see it says Excel. I can either double click it or click and open. I like to double click. So it is uploading that now into Google Drive. So it's going to put a copy in Google Drive. That one out there is not touched. It just took a copy of it. So that one still exists. This is now a copy that has been put in Google Drive and then opened using Google Sheets. It keeps the same name that it had. But I can now edit this. I can change this from 817 to be 515. And there's formulas in here. Everything recalcs based on those formulas. So I can do anything to this one that I could do if I had created it from scratch with Google Sheets. One word of caution, though, is that I mentioned that Google or Excel has been around longer. It has some features that Google doesn't have. If you're using one of those features, it wouldn't convert over clean. So you do need to check your sheet and make sure everything looks okay. 98% of the time, mine convert clean. This one had converted completely clean, no problems. But if you're using some advanced Excel features, it might not convert clean. So I'm just gonna go back home. Again, no save, nothing to save. It is now here in my list. So now I can continue to work on it from here. I don't have to go back and pull it off my device again. Once you open it, it stays here in your list of sheets that you have access to. Okay. There's no questions about managing sheets at that level. Let's actually go into one and start talking about how you create and edit sheets. And I've created one for this class. So let me open this sheet. And let's talk about first the what's called the ribbon up here. And actually, it's in Google, it's called the menu bar. In Microsoft, it's called the ribbon. This functions the same as the ribbon. It's a little cleaner than the Microsoft ribbon, I think. It has less information, but it's structured the same. You've got a tab for each group of commands. Here's the edit commands, the view commands, the insert commands, formatting commands, etc., just like it does in Excel. One of the differences is that Google has a very extensive shortcut bar, whereas Microsoft tends to put all these in that second level of the ribbon. I like this layout. I find it a little cleaner and easier to use than the Microsoft one, but that may just be a preference. But that's the biggest difference here. So let's talk about, we're going to use a lot of this stuff from up here as we're going through the class. Oh, and let me just go into the file and mention a couple of things before we start, and we'll come back in and talk more about these other functions in here later. One thing you can do is to make a copy, which is the thing as a save as. You can, I mentioned that it saves automatically. It also saves versions. So if you want to see your version history, you can go into here and look at the different versions. I just created this one today, so there's no prior versions, but it does keep prior versions for you. And this is also where you can move it to trash if you want to delete that one. So let's talk about spreadsheets in general. So this is a spreadsheet. The cell is the name for the intersection of the row and the column. It's named by its column and row location. So this is column B, row 9. This is what makes this cell B9. Up here in the upper left, it shows me where I am. So I click over here, it says I'm now at F11. That's the only place you can enter information in a spreadsheet is in a cell. 4 types of information you can put into cells. You can put numbers, you can put text, you can put dates, and you can put formulas. We'll talk about each one of those briefly. One thing about spreadsheets is what you see isn't necessarily what is stored in the cell. When I look at this cell, it says 5.28. That is not what's stored in there. Here's what's actually stored in the cell, 5.278456. So this is a formatted version of what's in the cell itself. So they're not always identical. If you double click a cell, it will show you the actual contents. Otherwise, it's showing you the formatted information. And you can change the formatting using the shortcut bar. So if I want to add or remove decimal places, I just click here and it changes the formatting of the cell. Doesn't change the contents of the cell. Text is text, pretty much. What you see is what you get with text. Dates are a special case of a number. Here I see Thursday, January 2nd, 2020, a very expansive version of the date. What's actually stored is just the month, day, and year. And again, I can format this into multiple different date formats as well. And the last thing is a formula. And a formula is like an algebraic formula. The biggest difference is that it starts with the equal sign. So in this case, the formula is equals to 12 plus 3 in parentheses times 35. And as before, I can double click here. It will show me the actual contents. I can edit it from down here. I can edit it from up here. So you can edit it from either place. What are your preferences? Where you're used to? I typically edit from up here just out of habit, but you can do it either way. Stop there for questions for people, especially if this is new to anyone that hasn't used spreadsheets before. All right. If everybody's okay so far, we're going to dig into formulas a little bit deeper because this is where the heart and soul of spreadsheets is, and this is where it gets a little more complicated. So we're going to start with a very simple formula. I'm going to create a formula that's going to add 42 and 148. You put an equal sign to start a formula. And those of you that use Excel, this works exactly like Excel. And it works like a calculator is the other analogy I like to use. So if I was using a calculator to add 42 and 148, I would type 42 and say plus and type 148. And then I'd hit equal. Here I start with the equal, and when I'm finished, I hit enter. It's the only difference. And then on the display of the calculator, it would put 460 here in the cell. It gives me 460. Here's the actual contents, 42 plus 148. It should be 148. Let's fix that. You can edit it from here if you made a mistake like I did. There we go. 42 plus 148. That looks better. You don't do this much in a spreadsheet. You're typically not adding two numbers. You're typically using cells and referencing cells. So you would do something more like take the contents of this cell and divide it by 10. So if I want to do that, I would just use equal. And I could type B3. That's where it is. But the easier way to do it, I think, is just to click on it. And it will type B3 in there for me. Then I can put a slash for divide, type 10, hit enter. 190 divided by 10 is indeed 19. Here's my formula, B3 divided by 10. Now you can actually have, this is a formula that includes both numbers and cell references. You can have formulas that include only cell references. This case, I want to compute B3, subtract B3 from B5. So I'm going to put an equal sign, and I'm going to say I want to take B3 and minus B5. There's my formula, B3 minus B5. Hit enter, 171. That is indeed correct. I can click here. I can see my formula. If I did make a mistake, I can fix it. If I want to add more to the formula, I can add more to it. You can use all the algebraic parens and combine addition, multiplication into your formulas. Again, any questions, please just unmute and ask. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going through this, but I don't want to lose anybody. I mentioned that dates are just a special type of number, which means I can do math with a date. If I want to know how many days is it from December 4th to December 24th, I can say equals December 24th minus December 4th, and it tells me it's 20 days. So that comes in handy lots of times. If you're needing to figure out how far it is between days, you could have figured that one out by looking at it. But if that was 2028, you probably couldn't figure that one out in your head. You can have a quick formula that figures that out for you. And I'm going to show you a trick to set up your column headers. When we looked at that annual budget, it had the month for each one of the column headers, January, February, March, April, May. Sometimes it's by week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. When I first started working with spreadsheets, I'd have to type in Monday, then type Tuesday, then type Wednesday. Now what you can do is just click on put in the first one, grab this bottom right corner. When you get there, the cursor is going to change to a big plus sign. and drag it over as far as you want it to go. And it creates the pattern, goes Monday through Sunday, and then starts repeating the pattern. You can do it no matter what the formatting is, because you're just changing the underlining number. I'll stop there. That gets me to Sunday. And it works for months as well as days of the week. And it also works for rows as well as columns. So handy little trick that's certainly, it's especially handy when you're setting up a new spreadsheet and you're setting up your column and row headers. All right, so if everybody's good so far, we're going to keep going. And we're going to talk about functions. And so we're going to go into another table here. This is what you typically, this is starting to look more like a typical spreadsheet. Spreadsheets typically have a table. A table has columns that contain information. These are the column headers I've been talking about. In this case, this is our members of my club. I've got the member's name, what tier they're in, what the monthly fee is, and I've got a column header for % of total that I haven't filled in yet. And so you, and most spreadsheets work on the data inside the table. And the nice thing about formulas is that they change when you change the data. I'm going to do something though with something called functions. Functions are like pre-formatted formulas. So for instance, I would want to know how many members I've got. Now, yeah, I can count, there's 4. But if I had over 200 members, I couldn't just glance at it and see what it is. I would need something to calculate that. I could create a formula that says B4 plus B5 plus B6 plus B7. That would be pretty ugly. So functions are really pre-formatted formulas that do that type of mathematics. And they are up here under this icon. If you're an Excel person, it's the same icon. And you click here, it gives you the different functions available. And so what I want to do is count how many members I've got. So I'm going to click that one. And it creates a function. Functions start with equal. Point up here is a little easier to see, just like a formula does. Then it has the name of the function, count in this case. And then you put the arguments. And the arguments are, in most cases, the starting cell and the ending cell. So I want to count everything from B4 down through B8. So it puts B4 colon B8. I'm hit enter. And indeed, it does count and give me a 4. The other thing I may want to do is to figure out how much revenue I've taken in this
Should
month.
that be 7 instead of 4? Was it supposed to count the whole thing?
It's counting the number of rows, not adding the.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Yep. Good clarification. Yeah. So it's counting rows, not, yeah. In fact, to do what you're talking about would be to use a sum, and we're going to do that one right here. I want to sum these, not count them. I click where I want the answer to be.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. Oh, good question. And so I'm going to find the sum function. It's right here. Do the same thing. I'm going to say sum everything from here down to here. And it sums up those numbers. I'm going to do one more, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. But I also want to know what's the average that my members are paying. So there's a pretty good variance there. So again, I can put the answer anywhere. I could put the answer over here. I'm going to put it down here right beside the word average. Come up here, grab the average, and select that same range and hit enter. And there's the average. Of course, the magic of the spreadsheet is you set up these formulas and these functions, and then you start running your business or doing whatever you're doing with the spreadsheet. It doesn't have to be business. It could be for whatever purpose you're doing. So when I'm looking at this, I'm saying June's getting a free ride here. I need to change June's fee. So I can click here and say, I'm going to kick her up to 155. It recalcs everything automatically. Bob decides he doesn't want to be part of the club anymore, I can click on that row where Bob is, right click, and say clear that row. It drops me down to 3 members. It adjusts my sum and my average. This is one of my favorite shortcuts. This is an undo. So if I say, oops, I didn't mean to do that, you can put it right back. Somebody else joins. Put her in, she's a tier 1, she just started, and boom, it bumps up to 5. I can put her in, and these numbers change.
Question.
Yes, sir.
When you first selected, say, it's John Doe for the monthly fee, and then you want to go to the end, Sue West, did you click and drag to that, or did you just click each column? Because I saw it highlight in orange.
Yep, good question. Yeah, you put the cursor in the first cell and then hold the left mouse button down, and then just come down and select. So it's hold and
That's
select.
what I thought I saw. Okay.
Yeah, good clarification. Thanks for that question. Right. There's no questions. I'm going to go to this last column because this is something you do a lot in spreadsheets, and it's a little tricky, is calculate percentages. So this is a formula again, not a function. It's a simple formula, but it's tricky in a spreadsheet. So if I want to know what percentage of total is John Doe, I would just say equals. It's a formula, and I'd say John Doe's payment divided by total of all payments, 25%. Now, normally what I want to do now is copy this down to these other cells. So I'm going to copy these down. And there's 2 ways to copy. One way is to do like we did when we were doing the headers over there. I just grab that bottom right corner and drag it down here. And it copies the formula down, but I got a problem. It says I'm dividing by 0. Let's check the formula. C4, yep, divided by C10. That looks right. Let's check this one. It says C5, that's good. Divided by C11, that's not good. That's this cell. And that is indeed 0, and that's not valid division. So what happens when you copy the formula? It increments both any of the cell references in that formula. So in this case, it increments the numerator and the denominator. I want to increment the numerator. I want it to go from C4 to C5 to C6. I don't want it to change the denominator. I want it to anchor on this. And there's a way to do this. And if you're an Excel person, it's the same, which is nice. You put a $sign in front of the letter and the number. That basically says to anchor that. It's called an absolute cell reference. The other way you can copy is to just do that, hold the left mouse button and select all those again and do a Control D for control down. And that then copies that formula down. Questions about that one? So that absolute reference is something that comes in handy in lots of different spreadsheets. And if you're not quite sure that that's correct, one thing you can do is you could come here and go grab another function and sum that up. Because if it's right, the sum of this should equal to 100, and it does sum up to 100, so that must be right. Okay. No other questions about formulas and functions, and I'm going to go to the last topic, which is formatting. And there's a couple other things I need to show you after we get done this. I'm going to do this pretty quickly because this is pretty similar to formatting in word processing, but there's a few tricks you can use with spreadsheets that make it a little easier. So, and you can tell here, I have a nicely formatted table, looks nice, easy to read. When I'm creating a new spreadsheet, I usually get all the math working first and don't worry too much about the formatting. Then I come and clean it up. So I'm going to clean this one up real quickly. I want to have these column headers all be bold. I could do them one at a time. That's kind of tedious. What you can do is you can work on rows and columns all at the same time. So I select this whole row. Now I can bold that whole row with one click. I probably want to center these at least down to here. So I can select an entire column, or I can just select a series of cells. In this case, I'm going to select this series of cells and say, let's center these. And now those are all centered. That looks nice. This is currency. It should look like currency. Everything in here is currency. So I'm going to select that whole column again. Come up here to my formatting shortcuts, format as currency. And while I'm in there, maybe I don't charge anything below $1, so I can get rid of those decimal places, make it fit a little better. These should all be percentages. I'm going to grab that whole column, click the percent. And again, if I want to adjust the decimal places, I can adjust the decimal places while I'm at it. And I've got that set up. So that's the first basic formatting. It looks better already. I got a problem here though. I can't see all of my column header. A couple of things I can do. You can change a column width by just coming up to the column headers here. And when you get between two columns, it changes to an arrows pointing in both directions. At that point, I can do a left mouse hold and change the column width manually. I'm going to undo, put it back like it was. That's one thing I can do. I can double click once I get the two arrows, and it'll automatically change it to be the width of the widest cell. That works, but I got a lot of ugly white space here that I don't particularly like. I'm going to put it back again. The other thing I can do is I can do what's called wrapping and take these two words and put them in the same cell, but one over the top of the other. That's what wrapping is. That's over here. The most time-consuming part of this is learning all the new icons, but when you hover over any of them, it tells you what they are. So when I hover over this, it says text wrapping. That's what I want. And so I'm going to click this text wrap. And so it puts those above each other. Now I probably want to center that, make it look a little nicer. There, it's centered. And in fact, I've actually got some white space now on either side, so I can make this column a little narrower. I'm going to do the double click trick here, and it narrowed that down a little bit more. Another trick, I got the same problem here. It's not quite as obvious because there's nothing in this cell, but if I put something in that cell, you can see that it chops off part of it. I could do the same 3 steps I did here. You're learning I'm lazy. Instead of 3 steps, I'm going to go with 1. I'm just going to click this paint formatter, this paint roller up here. That says copy that format from here and paste it here. And so it formats that one the same way. Saves me a couple of clicks. And if you were going to format all these columns the same way, it saves you lots of clicks by painting that one that you got like you want it and paint over a whole range of cells at one time. Do a couple of things here real quickly, and because I do want to save time for one more thing we want to do. What you typically do with spreadsheets is to add borders around the cells in the spreadsheet to make it kind of stand out. And that's right here. You can make borders around all the cells. You can just make around the outside. You got lots of options here, but I want it all the way around. So I picked that one. And then I want to put a little border here to make the column header stand out a little bit more. That's here called fill color. I'll pick a light blue. And I'm pretty much done. The last thing I want to do is to center that header up there. And so to do that, I need to come up here to these options. And I want to merge it horizontally. So what that's done is it's taken those 4 cells and made it one big wide cell. So you can see it's one cell. Now I have to center it. And I probably want to make it bold and maybe make it a little bigger so you can do other things here. Make it be 14 instead of 12, whatever. Okay. Did I cover any of that too fast? Everybody with me?
Could you do a print preview?
Yes. Well, you can do, it's down here. So when you go to the print, it does a print preview automatically here.
That's
And
what
so-
I was wanting to see, if it was really centered in the whole
Oh.
page.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's centered on the table, not the whole page.
Okay.
And we got time for this. Let me go to the next one. Because Google prints differently than most of the other apps I've used. It totally confused me the first time I came here because I said print and I was expecting to see a screen where it would say, it would list my printers and I pick which printer I want to use. Instead, it gets me here, which talks about PDFs and stuff. And I thought I'd done something wrong and I did it about 4 times before I figured it out. You have to open it as a PDF in order to print it. You've got several options. You can open it in your browser. I'm using Firefox, so I can open it in my browser. If I've got Adobe, I can open it with Adobe. I'm just going to open it in another tab in Firefox. So I'm going to say OK. So it opened it up here. And now I've got it here, and I would print from here. So now here's where I pick my printer and say print. So it's a 2-step process. All the Google apps work this way. So once you're used to it, it's not a problem, but it's a little disconcerting the first time you get there. Okay, we got just, we're 1 minute left, but let me just quickly show you the last thing I said I'd show you, and that's about sharing and downloading it to Excel. So let's first download it back to Excel. I've got a spreadsheet. I showed you how to bring in Excel to Google. I'm going to go the other way now. I'm going to take this and make it a Excel document. I do that by downloading. Here's my options. I could make it a PDF or an ODS, several other options here, but Excel is the one that I want. And Google plays very well with Excel. Google knows that Excel is the big dog in the house. So I just click Excel. It gives me 2 options. I can save the file or I can open it using Excel. I want to save it. So I just say, OK, and that file is now saved. And it's in my downloads folder. So if I go to my downloads folder, there's that Get Set Up Sheets 519 in Excel format. Very simple to download it as Excel. So like I said, it plays well with Excel. The other thing we talked about is sharing. I showed you some documents that were some spreadsheets that were shared with me. If I want to share this with someone else, I click up here and click share. I put who I want to share it with. I'll share it with my wife. I can add additional people here. I then determine what I'm going to let that person do. Can they edit my spreadsheet? Can they add comments but not edit, or can they just view it? So you can pick what you want them to be able to do. Be careful with this one because that does mean that they can access your spreadsheet and change it. So that's something you don't want to do lightly in most cases. Lots of times people just want to copy for themselves. So in that case, you would make them a viewer so they could see mine and copy it, but not change it. If you really are collaborating, but you don't trust them, you can let them be a commenter. And I'll show you how that works real quickly in 1 second. Then I would just hit send and it would send that off. She would get an email with a link. She'd click the link. It would open up this document. if I gave her commenting privileges, she could do something like clicking here and add a comment, which is right here, and say, I think whatever she wants to say. So she can add a comment. I can come open this, read her comment, but she can't go in and change it. She can just tell me what she thinks about it. That's commenting rights. If she had view only, all she could do is look at it, but she could also do make a copy and save it with a different name. And then she would have all rights for that one. So she could create a separate copy with a separate name, and then she could go in and edit everything because she's now changing her version, not my version. All right. We are, okay, so any quick questions? We're really pretty much out of time, but yeah. Great, Kathy. Unmute.
Wade, where you were just at, where she was saving a copy, can you go right back to that for a second? I had a question.
So do file and then make a copy. And then of course
it says folder is under my drive. Is that the cloud drive or is that on her PC?
That it's going to default to OneDrive or Google Drive, sorry. I can change the folder and put it a different place. And I can actually even download it, save it to my computer instead.
Okay, thank you.
But by default, Google is going to do everything using Google Drive, but it does typically give you a way to put it somewhere else if you want to.
Thanks.
Sure. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and go. We got about 4 minutes left here to get you out of here before your next class. So I'm going to kind of fast forward through some of this, but I do want to thank you for attending. Hope you enjoyed the class and learned some things about Google Sheets. I think it's a great tool. And as I said, you don't have to pick one or the other. I use Sheets and Excel still. I still use both. They play well together. I did mention a couple of other classes, that introduction to Google Apps, which goes over everything in that waffle icon. I didn't mention this, but there is a class called Sharing and Collaborating with Google Tools. That goes into a whole hour-long discussion of that sharing process. I just showed you how to share the file. We didn't talk about how, if I gave that person editing privileges, I could see what they've edited, who can change what, who overrides whose decision. You could have a document with 5 people editing, 2 people have editing privileges, 2 have collaborating, 1 has viewing. It can get complicated. So that whole class goes into how you can collaborate. The good news is it works the same for all tools. If you know how to do it with Sheets, you know how to do it with slides and docs as well. It works the same way for all of them. After class, you'll get that email, which will have some class notes, which will have links to it, to some other websites with information related to the class. I'll put those 2 related, get set up classes in there as well if you want to take either or both of those classes. You can recommend it to a friend. There'll be links to classes you might want to take. The Give Feedback link opens our feedback form. 2 questions, rate the class 1 to 5, rate the guide 1 to 5, and then add comments. Comments aren't required, but they're greatly appreciated. The last link is to view schedule. That takes you to our website where you can book another class. If you know what you're looking for, the best way to find it, I think, is to do a keyword search. So if you're looking for that collaboration class, you can start typing collaboration, and luckily you only have to do 4 letters because I can't spell collaboration. But that's all I needed to say. There's that class, sharing and collaborating. If you ever get this notify me, what that means is that we only book about 2 weeks out. And so this class will be offered again. It's just not in that 2-week rotation. It's in a 3-week rotation. And so instead of having to check back and see if it's available, if you click notify me, we'll send you an email when it's available to book. So you don't have to keep coming back and checking to see if it's there. But the last thing that show you is that instead of searching for a class, you can also search for a guide if you want to see what some of the guides that you like are teaching for the next 2-week period. Just put their name there instead of the class name. It'll take you to their list of classes, and it is in chronological order. So this is a class I'm teaching at 4:30 this afternoon, going out throughout the rest of the week and into next week for the next couple of weeks out. And we are at the end of the hour, so I am going to stop there. And I do want to thank you for attending. Hope you enjoyed the class, and I hope I see you again in another one of my classes really soon. Thanks
Yeah,
for
thanks,
coming.
Greg.
Thanks. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Wade. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Bye, Joe.